Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining me this evening as I speak with one of the oil persons, not an oil producer by any means, but someone who has been spending a considerable amount of time in looking at the oil sector. In fact, our guest this evening has actually published a book on the subject of oil, and it has been in Guyana for the past 10 days, I think, and has been interviewing persons for 1 hour on the various aspects of oil. I myself had the privilege of participating in one of those hour-long discussions. I understand some famous people will be following in another couple of
even
days.
more famous than you, Chris.
Yeah.
No, I mean, tomorrow the Trinidad Oil Minister, 8 o'clock, the Georgetown Club. Friday, 8 o'clock, Raphael Trotman, the Minister of Natural Resources, 9 o'clock, PPPC presidential candidate, and on Saturday, Tulsi Dal Singh, who actually is not just Guyanese but actually knows about oil.
He's
made money
in oil. Well, John, let me formally introduce you, John Mair. Thank you for coming on Plain Talk. I know you have used another name, a pen name, from time to time.
I never deny being Bill Cotton.
Bill Cotton. Now, before we get into serious discussions, and oil is an extremely serious issue, where did that name Bill Cotton come from?
Well, there it is. You see, the controller of BBC One was called Bill Cotton. He was Billy Cotton, the band leader's son.
Yes.
And when I started doing Bill Cotton, he was doing TV reviews. So
yes.
I called it Bill Cotton, and then when the PNC changed their title, I called it Bill Cotton Dash. Bill Cotton Dash Reform. And then after a few years, I met Bill Cotton in a pub after the event I did, and I said, Mr. Cotton, it's very kind of you to lend me your name. And he couldn't understand it at all. But so that's where it came from. And anyway, Bill Cotton had a reason, had a purpose, and still does in this country. It's satire is badly needed.
Always, it's a good safety valve. Mr. Mayor, before we get into oil. You live in England.
I do. I live in Oxford.
You live in Oxford. Wonderful place. Now, there's a famous Guyanese in England now, Gina Miller.
There is, yes, lovely woman.
Tell us about Gina Miller.
Gina is lovely, because every time I've interviewed her now 5 times publicly, maybe 6. I always say, Gina, you're just like your father. You like causing mischief and you have a twinkle.
And her father is?
Her father was the Attorney General. You remind me his name.
Do not sing.
Do not sing. And Gina grew up partially here and then went to school in England. And she is just like Do Not. She has that twinkle in her eye. You can always tell Do Not was up to mischief, and Gina's the same. Except that Gina has big money these days, and she's doing wonderful stuff. She's taken on the government twice.
And won
twice.
Yes.
In the Supreme Court. That's pretty. And she will have another go. She says if Boris Johnson tries to break the law to bring Britain out of the East, she'll have another go.
Yes, well, what is it that has made her famous?
Well, what's made her famous?
I'm asking it rhetorically because viewers
will not know.
Yeah.
Now Gina is a businesswoman. She's married to a rich man. That helps. And they do ethical investment advice in the city.
Yes.
Now when the
ethical business advice meaning
that they will only advise people to invest in units which they're interested in, which have a social purpose or whatever. She's fought for years for that. And then 3 years ago, when Article 50 was happening, the vote on leaving the EU, she brought a case in the High Court to force the government to stop that, and she lost. But she wasn't. She then went to the appeal court.
Yes,
which is like here, except more sensible. They can add up in the British appeal court, and then she won that. So that went to the Supreme Court, which is like your CCJ, and she won that.
Yes.
And then the other day, 2 months ago, the Prime Minister prorogated Parliament. He told Parliament, "Go away, I don't want you." He said, "You've gone for 5 weeks, I don't want you," which is within his power. But in the process, he lied. He lied to the Queen. He lied to the nation. So Gina took him to the High Court. She lost that case again, I think. And she took him to the Appeal Court. She won that case. They took it to the Supreme Court, and they won 11-0.
Yes.
11-0 Supreme Court judges said that what the Prime Minister did was illegal, and he had to call Parliament back the next day.
Yes, and what was amazing was how quickly, I mean, the conduct of that case. It was a lesson for us in our own courts, including the Caribbean Court of Justice. The Caribbean Court of Justice, I think, has shot itself in its feet by the tardiness with which it dealt with our
2.5 weeks from beginning to end, probably 2.5 weeks from prorogation to the court. The Supreme Court said, "Mr. Johnson, you are wrong."
No, it was less than that. It was less. It was in a week. It was incredible.
Well, the Supreme Court met on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
and gave a decision
on Tuesday.
Yes,
yes.
That
was amazing.
And the chairwoman just said it with a smile on her face.
That was a
unanimous decision.
That was she conducted herself so well.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Now
the British press attacked her as being a Remainer.
Now, John, you and I follow Brexit. I think we both British passport holders.
Well, yes. That probably disqualifies you from being on Guyanese television, doesn't it?
No,
Dual
from
citizenship.
me in Parliament.
Right.
But the point is this, and for us talking about Brexit in fact is the term that is used for the British exiting.
Britain exit.
Yes, it's Britain exiting the European Union.
I've edited 6 books this year on Brexit, so ask me anything you like.
Yeah.
The latest one is published tomorrow in Belfast about the border.
It's, if one were to take an analogy, it would be like Guyana exiting
CARICOM. Guy exit.
Yes, Guy exit.
Robert Passard virtually said that yesterday, that Guyana should think about leaving CARICOM.
Wow.
Yeah? He said, what use are they to us with an oil economy? It would be.
Now, is it normal that a country would leave a trading bloc, free movement of capital, free movement of people, free movement of goods? What's gone wrong with Britain?
It's national madness. It's a total self-inflicted wound by a nation. And you then have to ask yourself why they did it. But why would you walk away from your biggest trading partner? Why would you do that? You wouldn't do it if you were a cake shop and you somebody came in and bought 50
your customers, yes.
Yeah, 50
You're giving up your customers.
You don't say to them, "Go away, please. I actually want to go across the road to that person there."
But the question, John, Boris Johnson,
yes,
who
our esteemed Prime Minister, the man who doesn't know how many children he has, he doesn't.
No comment.
A man who lives with his mistress in number 10 Downing Street.
Yes.
A man whose party represents family values. You want to carry on about Boris?
Not at all.
He's charismatic.
But yet, the point is this: in a so-called free vote, 52%
voted to leave. And 48% voted to stay.
Remain, yes.
To remain, yes. But that shows you the danger of popular plebiscites,
Yes.
Where was the discussion?
When only less than 40% of the total people voted.
Yes, but the great thing, as you will know, is there was a bus that said, if we leave the EU, 350 million pounds will come back to NHS.
A gross lie.
And it was a lie. It was a total lie. And they recognised it was a lie. And so, but what they did, very cleverly, I mean, they used social media very cleverly, but they also came up with a slogan, "Take back control."
Yes.
You must take back control from those bureaucrats, from those terrible people over there. Take back control. And Guyana has a lesson to learn from it.
But who would be these people? We are saying it's madness. Are you saying that 52% of the persons who voted I think it was June or something.
June 26th.
Yes, 23rd or something like that. Who voted? Are you saying those people are mad?
Well, I'm a member of the liberal elite, the chattering classes. I'm a Remainer. I don't disguise it. And they say that we look down on these people with contempt. Well, yes, we do, because why did people vote to leave? Xenophobia.
Yes.
Little Britain. Racism. A lot of racism. Unhidden. If you were a white person living in Burnley or Bradford, and you'd had your street, which had become rather brown in the last 20 years, you felt you had no power. So this is your one chance.
But was it the Bronx that they? It wasn't the Pakistanis and Indians. East Europeans.
I saw a remarkable TV program during the referendum from Leicester, which has a very high Asian population.
That's correct.
Hosiery and things, and this room was full of Asians, some of them quite posh, and they were all arguing for Brexit. You know why? So that if you stop these Eastern Europeans coming, their relatives would come from Southern Asia.
Yeah.
It don't work like that. The Tories were
Yeah.
So racism, xenophobia, Little Englander, some intelligent stuff about EU being too powerful.
Yes.
But I mean, if I had been running the Remain campaign, what I would have done was just played videos of the Second World War. I say, is this what you want? Is this what you want?
No, it might work the other way though, because the Second World War, the British still behave as though they were the ones who won the Second World War.
Who do you think killed Mr. Hitler? Yes,
yes. They ignore the French resistance. They ignore the massive contribution of the Russians.
Yes, and the Germans are still the enemy to lots of people.
Yes.
I mean, Merkel rang Boris last week, I think, and told him off early one morning. And the briefing, what was it? There was social media. Did we win?
We didn't win 2 World War for this. Yes.
Have this woman talk to us like this.
Yeah.
So there's all that mixture, and also deindustrialization. If you live in a place which used to have an industry, doesn't have an industry, or you used to.
You blame somebody else.
Yeah, you used to work as a skill. Now you're working as a delivery person, or you're working in a place, an Amazon place or something. You're unskilled. So who do you blame? You blame somebody else.
But
globalization. You see, people don't understand the word globalization. That's what it means. It means jobs go here, there, and everywhere.
Yes.
And I also.
But it is one of the great paradoxes. These are the people who boasted about an empire.
Well, they'd like an empire again.
Yes.
Well, they'd like an empire again. I tell you, they think the empire's going to trade with them.
But they're closing in. But these are the people. And look, as we talk of Black History Month and all of those things, they built their country.
Yes, of course.
On globalization. The British Empire was about globalization.
If you look at cities like Liverpool, Glasgow, Bristol, and so on, they're built on the slave trade, and thrived in Liverpool, especially from Guyana. But yes, I mean, but people actually think the empire will trade again.
Yeah.
Now you tell that to the Australians, who now have their own common market. You tell it to New Zealanders. One of the things that will happen is what are Welsh hill farmers going to do who have sheep? They haven't got a market anymore. They can't export to Europe.
Yes.
So are they going to export to New Zealand? Are they? Hell. New Zealand
and Australia,
New Zealand not interested.
You're not.
No, so and cars, Britain had 2 million units of cars sold 2 years ago. Next year it's 500,000,
Yeah.
because we were being used by the Japanese as an aircraft carrier to get into Europe.
That's right.
Which is fair enough. That's their choice. If they can't get into Europe, they'll go to Czechoslovakia.
But we talk about your Prime Minister. Let's use very kind language about him. Huh?
Boris is an interesting man.
Interesting, yeah. So is Donald Trump.
Yeah, but
in what ways would you say the two of them and their followers, their base, are really different?
Donald Trump calls Boris Britain Trump. He hasn't come with an apostrophe.
Well, you're not sure whether it's a defect on his part or it's intentional.
Anyway, the difference is Boris is twice as clever as Trump by a mile. Boris is a very, very clever boy. Yes.
Trump is a stable genius.
Yes, I mean, but Trump is on.
At least he said that.
He is on. Trump is the sort of Mr. Sharma of America. but Boris understands populism.
Yes.
Yes, that's the secret. So you say what the audience wants you to hear. Wants to hear. So you say, so if we don't leave the EC, if Britain doesn't.
But he's a bloody opportunist. This
Of course he is.
he's taking an opposite position now to what he took 5 years ago.
Well, you know what happened on the day the referendum was announced. He writes in the Daily Telegraph for $250,000 a year. Right? He used to write.
That's the kind of money you people make for writing in the English press.
I don't. He did. He makes it, but he wrote 2 articles. He wrote one for Remain, and one for Leave, and he decided which one to use, and based purely on opportunism. He thought this is the one that's going to make me.
Part of Trump has supported Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
He's a big supporter of Brexit.
Yeah.
Partly he's hoping that the rest of Europe would have gone that way, and the EU would have practically collapsed.
Imploded. Yeah.
Yes, and then the Americans would come in with their washed chicken and the GMOs.
Chlorinated chicken. Yes.
Chlorinated chicken. That's it.
So but I mean, Trump recognised the kindred spirit in Boris, but Boris is much cleverer, much more subtle. His appeal is base, but it's also, I mean, the Tory party support him. These are old codgers from the Shires. You see them jumping up and down the Tory. I said the party of family values supports the man who's a philanderer, who's living with his mistress. How can they justify that?
Well, again, the similarity with the United States and Trump and the religious conservative right is the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think Boris has any religion apart from Boris, but his hero is Churchill, of course. He's written a biography of Churchill, a thick biography. So he is aiming to be the Churchill of the 21st century, and he may do it.
Well, of course, Churchill was partly circumstances as well, and a lot of it is British hype. Look, Churchill alone did not. I mean, he stood tall. There's no question about it. Some of his speeches, even when he was smoking and drinking with a cigar, was excellent.
Yeah.
He one of the greatest orators that you could find.
And Boris can be as well. But Boris shows off. So Boris regards politics as the Oxford Union. That's what you have to think. He's arguing the Oxford Union, and he's saying, "Look, sit down, Johnny. Sit down, you. That's a lot of humbug." In Parliament the other day, he was talking about the MP who got killed, who got murdered.
Yeah.
And he said to the MP who brought up, said, "That's a lot of humbug."
Mm-hmm.
That didn't go down very well with him. So he has his oratorial skills, and he has the brain as well. And he did classics at Oxford.
Yes.
And so he uses these obscure Latin phrases.
Now, at a practical level, you and I, I think we have European Union passports.
I still do, yes, for another few days, yes.
Yes. What happens then to all those persons?
I have problems. You all have problems. Well, how do we get into Europe? How do we have to? It won't quite be visas, but we'll have to.
You're not walking through that line anymore.
No, you're not walking through the line that says EU. No, unless you're in Ireland, Northern Ireland, which is the insoluble problem of Brexit, which Boris hasn't solved.
Well, he has. He seems to have come back some halfway measures, something in the
Irish Sea, the border, which means he's accepted that Ireland is an island.
Yes.
There we go. It's only taken the 20th century people to work that one out.
Do you see this? Because you've got Scotland. Scotland voted 62%
to remain.
To remain.
Yes. So did Northern Ireland. Well, no, I didn't do 60, but they voted to remain as well.
Yes. Now, they're being forced against their will to leave this trading bloc that has clearly been good for them.
Yeah.
Because they've got a lot of money out of the European Fund.
Yes. Well, so did Wales, but they voted to leave. Anyway, that's by the by.
So, do you see the disintegration?
Probably. I mean,
of the United Kingdom?
If I was Scottish First Minister, I would agitate galore now for a second referendum. Agitate, and if there is a second referendum, they will win. So the central government has to stop that second referendum.
Queenie is not going to interfere on that occasion.
Well, no, I think the Queen has had her fingers burnt.
With Boris Johnson.
Apparently, he had to ring her up to apologise for lying to her. Can you imagine, Ma'am? I'm very sorry that I lied to you about prorogation of Parliament. That's all right, Mr. Johnson.
Was he on his knees when he apologised?
No, he was on the. So yes, I mean well, sooner or later, Ireland would become one. It's night follows day. You know, don't listen to the lunatic Protestants, the DUP, and Boris hasn't listened to them this time around. Because up till last week, they were in there asking for another billion. Because they got 2 billion out of Theresa May for 10 votes. Last week they asked for another billion, and now he eventually said no, and they've become an opposition. You've seen them become an opposition. But who are they representing? You know, because Ireland voted to leave. To stay.
Ireland voted to stay.
So Southern Ireland, Northern Ireland voted to stay. Scotland voted to stay. Wales voted to leave.
Yes.
So did England. So you may end up with a rump of England and Wales.
That could have implications for Guyana, maybe positive or negative. Now, if you recall, we had the sugar protocol.
Yes.
Now, of course, we don't have sugar.
Yes, so you don't need a protocol.
even if we had a protocol, it wouldn't be much help. But after we joined the EU, and because of the French farmers and the beet,
yes,
the concessionary prices and so on that we got
came
to an end.
Yeah.
Do you see that returning?
No. There were too many beet farmers in England apart from anything else. Tate and Lyle do an awful lot of beet process in the east of England. No, not at all. I mean, I don't see favourable terms coming. But I see they will try and use the Commonwealth.
Yes,
that's the idea. Use the Commonwealth, to bolster the trade. But it's not going to happen. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, are they really going to up their trade to Britain? What for?
You have been in Guyana for a number of weeks. You come very often.
I come quite frequently. So
Yes,
I've come back here, and I have both a passport and a birth certificate to prove it, despite what people write in Slavic News.
Now, we saw in the UK courts how the court acted with alacrity.
Swiftly.
It acted with quite considerable independence.
But of course.
And you saw people on the streets. Now we have a situation. We've had a motion of no confidence.
Yes.
A government decides, I am not honoring that. You can do what you want. What kind of contrast or comparison have you noticed between the England that you left and the Guyana you've come back to? Because as we speak, we still have a situation where the Parliament, the National Assembly, has no mandate, no legality.
You've got a situation of lawlessness. There is no legislature. There's what I call legislative anomie. There's no Parliament, nothing. We have a Parliament, and that is controlling Boris rather than the other way around. They actually have Boris in the corner. So, I mean, he won yesterday or the day before. He won one vote and then lost another one
20 minutes
later.
And all the one he won was to say, yes, we are prepared to debate this.
The plan is all right.
It wasn't thrown out at the first order.
But he did better than Theresa May.
That's correct.
I think, Boris could still rip up the law. He still wants to leave by a week on Monday.
Yeah.
He can still say the law is the law and rip it up.
Well,
in which case Gina will come back.
Gina will come back. Gina's already said.
Bring on Gina.
She said in Guardian, don't worry, I'll be back.
Yes. The trouble is, once he's done it, how can you stop it?
Yeah.
But mind you, prorogation was stopped.
Yes. And their courts are serious.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't treat them with contempt. I mean, Boris actually said the Supreme Court was wrong. He said 11-0, they're wrong. Oh, that's all right, Boris. That's your point of view.
But he played the schoolboy thing. He wrote the European Union a letter.
Well, he sent him a photocopied letter.
A photocopied letter without the signature.
No signature, and then 2 other letters saying, I didn't mean the first one.
I didn't mean the first one that I didn't sign.
No, and How stupid can you get? This is the British Prime Minister.
Well, we talk about Oxford, but he behaves more like a little school boy.
Well, his boy from Eton. He has all the arrogance of the Etonians. Him and Jacob Rees-Mogg and one or two others. But they really are. They rule the world. But I mean, I don't. If you're going to ask what's going to happen in Brexit, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, but what I was asking you, the contrast between the UK and Guyana, its court system and its people. I mean, people are going about their normal lives like we've got a perfectly legitimate government, everything goes well, we don't need parliament, we just run by presidential dictate.
I mean, it's only the chattering classes in Britain who are excited about remaining.
No, man, they put roughly 1 million people.
Yeah, all right.
That's what I'm talking
there
about.
There are 1 million chattering classes. Oxford emptied for the day to go there. Yeah, I mean, I live in a part of Oxford which has solidly remained. Oxford will remain, and even to this day, you have posters in people's windows that say, from the referendum 3 years ago, that say "Remain, Remain, Remain."
Mm-hmm.
So the time has stood still.
I don't know whether I should pursue this question or whether you're trying to avoid it. I'm asking you about us in Guyana. We just sit back. Nothing. Not even a slight demonstration.
Maybe people are apathetic. People don't care, and maybe it's just you liars that get excited about all this. You see.
We're the chattering class.
Well, you are the chattering classes. Yes.
Well, we don't go on the streets.
You what?
We don't go on the streets.
No, but you are the chattering. You go into the courts. You go into the courts a bit too frequently, in my view. You should keep away from the courts but no, I mean.
Because why? Because why?
Because I think sometimes you trip yourselves up.
Uh-huh.
You see, I personally would have let the CCJ judgment stand and just work on that. But you then went to court. What did you go to court on?
No.
Was that electoral role you went to?
That was a different man. No, I didn't go to court on that.
Who did? Somebody went to
court.
I
think Nandalal, Mr. Nandalal.
I would have let that stand and actually fight on that, because that was pretty conclusive. And also, I mean, this is you've got a government which can smile and just carry on, and an Attorney General who seems to think the Constitution is something that people go for a walk, have a walk, and the President. But there is an election coming up eventually, a year late.
Yeah. A year late. Now, you came here to Guyana to do a series of interviews on oil and gas. Well, more oil and gas.
More oil and gas, yeah.
Yes.
There was a lot hot air, but mainly by oil.
Now, how would you assess the series that you have had?
Well, I've been very pleased with it. They haven't actually been flocking into the Georgetown Club, but that doesn't matter. Tomorrow, the ex-Trinidad Oil Minister, Friday, 8 o'clock, Raphael Trotman, 9 o'clock, Irfan Ali, the next day. But what it's done is given people like you an hour to talk about oil. So it isn't just a little panel discussion, because I've been to too
But
many.
you just now said you were not just now describing people like me as part of the chatterati, the chattering class.
We haven't had too many dissenters from the oil position, but maybe next time I do it, I'll have. I mean, there are people in this country who believe there's no oil. They're oil deniers.
Well, there were people who believed that the earth is flat.
I know, but they believe there's no oil. There are other people who say that...
You're not serious. People don't believe that there's oil?
I met people who don't believe there's oil. They think it's all a PR stunt.
So what do you think...
ExxonMobil.
What was happening out there?
Well, they think it's PR stunt by ExxonMobil.
Why would ExxonMobil be doing that?
I have no idea, but we also say, leave the oil in the ground. We have a nice lifestyle here. Don't change our lifestyle. But so the reason I did that was to get a better understanding. Most of these will be on News Talk Radio and have in the press as well, and they may become another book as well. But I think people should have an hour to explore their ideas.
So you think it has gone well?
It's gone well for me, Chris, but I'm only the one asking the questions. You must ask the audience. By and large, they appreciated it. And most of them have bought the book, which is called Oil Dorado, Guyana's Black Gold, available in Austin's and other good bookshops.
Oil Dorado, as opposed to El Dorado.
Oh, it's turned around, you see. Everybody's looking for El Dorado up by Mount Roraima. El Dorado's offshore. I mean, you are talking, which the Guyanese do not realise, about massive, massive amounts of oil. You know, it's probably 12 or 15 already, and it's going up
12 or 51.
billion barrels.
No, it's not so much. No.
Well, 6 plus from Exxon.
Yeah.
Four and a bit from Tullow.
No, Tullow hasn't quantified it.
Well,
No,
their partners have.
Well,
So
I don't. 15, I think, is 15 may indeed materialize, but certainly we're not anywhere close to that.
no, all right, but it may go up. Because the U.S. Geological Service said 13.5 billion in 2012.
Yes, they did.
And
They
this is the biggest find of 2019 anywhere in the world.
The biggest fine in 2015, the one that was announced in 2015. Yes.
And the thing I always say to people is 1 barrel of oil per person per day in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Just think of that. 750,000 barrels of oil. 1 barrel of oil per person. $60 per day.
It's a nice way to put it, but it's almost like Boris Johnson saying 350 million pounds.
But this is true.
But that it does not come to Guyana. Much of it doesn't come to Guyana.
That's a different question. The question is the possibility of 750,000 barrels of oil per day is there.
Yes, no. We know in terms of quantity.
Excellent, etc. And you know, if you do the sums as well, Chris, I'm sure you have. You know, if you divide the revenue, or wherever it goes, by the population, Guyana could be the second richest per capita country in the world. It won't be because the revenue will go here, there, and everywhere.
Because we have already ceded the revenue, or much of it, given the structure of our contract.
Well, you gave away a 2% deal, and you gave away revenue, you know, which you shouldn't have done.
But let me ask you this, Bill. What was your motivation that led you to embark on this exercise?
Well, I've been interested.
Are you on a book tour?
Sort of, yes. Essentially, yes. Would you like me to sign the book for you and reduce the value of it? I mean, I've been interested in Guyana oil for years, as you know, because you and I have done a paper in London on this very subject.
Right.
So I mean, I'm not coming to it anew. And when I was coming with the Aberdeen people in March, I thought, you know, there must be a book in this, and there was. You know, I got people like you. I got Moses Nagamutu to write an introduction, helped by me.
Mm-hmm. You said that sotto voce.
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say.
He's Prime Minister after all.
He is, yes. And some real oil men, and you know, and this, if you want to know about Guyanese oil, this is as good a primer as you get. And there isn't actually any other book about Guyanese oil, as far as I know. So there's that. I mean, you know, there's a bit of tiny bit of commercial interest. I mean,
so it's a commercial part of the motivation. I'm sure it was
a little bit. I mean, you know, peanuts there. But I mean, also, you know, I'm interested in this country. This is my mother's land, as I always tell people. This is my mother's land.
Now, what it is still going on? You still have three more
sessions.
Sessions?
Friday, Saturday, yeah.
Yes. So and it's public. It's free at the Georgian Club.
Well, I take $1,000 to pay for the tea and the coffee and the room, but everybody can come. It's free and open to all, as it should be, and everybody's entitled to ask a question as well.
Yes.
So you mustn't be afraid of the fact that it's a presidential candidate. The cat should speak to the control. Everybody should be able to ask a question, as they did with you, Chris, when you did your thing. You know, you were facing a gentle question in from a central committee member of the PPC.
And one other person.
and, also,
and you probably don't want to mention that. That's fine.
No. She's there publicly, you know, and somebody from Exxon as well.
Yeah.
So she's there perfectly openly. So
and she come back every day.
Virtually every day, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes,
I find her quite a nice individual.
She is, yes.
She really was. What, Bill? What is your takeaway from these talks that you've had?
My takeaway is a huge sense of ignorance in the classical sense.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know. It's out there. They don't know. They don't know how much, when it's coming up, or what it means. I mean, you and I, because we're liberal insiders, know that first oil will actually be maybe around Christmas time.
Yeah.
This will be the president's present to the nation. Yeah. So lo and behold, December the 20th, first oil. Yeah. You don't need a degree in rocket science to work that one out, do you?
Well, we would have another president. The lawyer said he will be ready. GCOM will be ready by December the 25th.
Yeah.
Apparently, he didn't realize that's Christmas Day. But
No. So my takeaway is that this is a transforming moment. It's absolutely transforming. You know, this is an opportunity that will never ever come again, and it's up to you to take control. I mean, you know that one of the things I do actually want to do if I come back is a thing called a big oil conversation, where you have 100 scientifically chosen people with a population. You have a name figure, maybe Gina, if I can persuade her, or Valerie or something. So a name figure who's Guyanese but not tainted, so not here, to actually have a public forum in which people discuss how much there is and what they want to do with it. I don't get any sense of discussion what people want to do with the money apart from have it in their pocket. Give me a cash advance.
in your discussion with your guests, did you get the sense of imminence that this thing is going to be happening?
No. It's out there. It's coming. It's an oil boom. It's coming. Actually, it isn't coming. It's here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you read my letter in Stafford News, I said that I can hear the whine of oil companies' horses as the stable doors get bolted in Guyana, because there's no law.
I'm not sure that analogy with
Well,
with horses. It's a difficult one to analogy with wine, isn't it?
But you don't. Whine meaning the sound of the horses whining away because they've gone. The oil companies are out there. They're taking up oil. Where's your laws? Where's your regulation? You don't have any. You have legislative enemy. You don't have a petroleum commission.
No, we don't. Well, it seems that we haven't decided. The government has not decided whether it will pursue the petroleum commission, because after the petroleum
there's
commission,
a bill. There hasn't got an act.
Yeah, but it's shelved.
Is it?
It has been shelved after the petroleum Department of Energy was established in this super ministry of the presidency. We haven't heard a thing about it again. And as you know, we were told, Granger had said, that he was bringing someone on board to head energy who he admitted didn't know anything about energy, but would get people who did know. We brought on Wilkes.
He's gone now.
And he has gone.
He's gone back to the Cotswolds in England.
So where are we?
You're up a creek without a paddle. I mean, how big is the Department of Energy? 12, 14 people? How many lawyers do they have? One?
Maybe. I don't even know.
How many lawyers do ExxonMobil have? What has been most disturbing, Chris, is I don't get any sense of strategy. I don't get the feeling the President has outlined a strategy, and I don't get the feeling that the Leader of the Opposition has outlined a strategy. Where's the strategy? Let's find, unless the two of them say, this is what we want, then, where are you going?
I'm putting this question to you, same question in different ways. You said there was no sense of imminence that this thing is coming.
I don't feel that, no.
Did you get any sense of excitement among your interviewees and guests that, look, this transformational development is about to take place and I am part of it, I'm part of history?
Surprisingly, the one who was most enthusiastic was the former oil minister, Mr. Robert Passard, who now makes a living as a consultant.
Yes.
He is probably the most excited, apart from Tullow, of course, of the lot. No, not really. I mean, there's a sort of Guyanese phlegmatism, a phlegmatic thing. When it's going to happen, what are we going to do? Take control of it. That's what you need to do.
How do you take control of it?
Well, you take control of it by the people taking control.
No, but how?
Through popular forums, Chris.
No, but listen, this is what happened. The government signed an agreement. We hadn't got a clue that they did.
Yeah, yes.
Then you hear there was some shenanigan about some signing bonus,
which you
and they got caught.
Yes.
And that forced them to bring it out. But that has not altered the nature of the contract.
No, nor will it.
Nor will it, because of the stability clause that
And
is
because-
embedded in it.
Because you're a fly up against an elephant in Exxon. You know, Exxon is not going to rip up that contract, never in 100 years. But what any popular forum has to do is say, this is what we want in the future. There's still 2 oil blocks and more importantly, this is what we want from the revenue.
But we have already given out much of what we had. So it's not as though we got a massive amounts to give out again.
Yeah.
And then you hear what I find extremely troubling. Trotman said to the Natural Resources Committee of the National Assembly that, look, we are not going to change anything. We wouldn't be changing anything. We're not even going to enforce the law in relation to relinquishment. Relinquishment works like this. You are given a block and under a petroleum agreement. Under that agreement, you can then apply for a prospecting license. When you apply for a prospecting license, you have to show what your local content is going to be. You got to show what your expertise is. You got to show how you intend to develop this. You got to show that you've got the money to develop it. We seem to have waived many of those things. But most fundamentally, in my view, and this troubles me with what Trotman said, and I think before you interview him, you should read his presentation to the Natural Resources Committee. He said, we are not going to pursue this relinquishment. Well, that is lunacy. This man has sold out this
He's
country.
put his hand up from the beginning. Surrender.
It's idiotic for him to say that. And I trust you will ask him something about it.
I will read your column on Friday morning.
But so the relinquishment works like this. You get a prospecting license. You have 4 years to spend money looking for the oil. You then have a first 3 years as a renewal of the prospecting license. The minister's got to be satisfied, well, you made a genuine effort in the first 4 years. Under our law, as drafted, you have to give up half of that 50%, of that 100%, at the end of the first. Trotman decided, no, we don't want the whole half. The guy is crazy.
You know him better than me.
No, well, I know his work.
Yeah, but why don't you invite both the president and the leader of the opposition onto this program and say, you have an hour, give us your strategy.
The
on
president does not even acknowledge correspondence. It is the most unbelievable situation.
Really, that's just plain rude.
Well,
but, you know, where's the strategy? Where's the strategy?
My view is this, and you're supposed to be answering the questions, not me.
No, I'm just listening to you, Chris.
But is that we have essentially delegated the management of our most valuable
To the companies.
to the oil companies.
Well, that's what I said. They're self-regulating eventually. The man from Tiller said the other day, you know, we apply international standards,
Which is good.
which is fine. But who's regulating them on the
Yes,
international
yeah.
standards? You know, so they're self-regulating. This is your patrimony, your biggest asset, is being regulated by the companies themselves.
Now you've said Robert Passod was the one who was most
Most
gung-ho,
was bullish.
excited, bullish.
Yeah. He does do a lot of consultancy work there with the oil companies.
What
With the
what is it he in fact said? What led you to conclude or to
He,
infer?
he said, "Look, this is a big opportunity. We need to grasp it. It will transform us, you know, and all of that." And he with no ifs or buts. He was a little bit more guarded when he was asked about ratio oil, as you might expect.
Yes.
As should you and I be a bit more guarded talking about ratio oil.
Though in fairness to Robert Passod, it wasn't he. Was it the president who signed the agreement? It was the president.
Yeah, Ramadan. But you see, I find it unbelievable. In fact, I don't believe it, that the Minister of Oil did not know there was oil before the election. And it
He
was
must have known.
well,
He
it
must
was
have known.
You know, 2 weeks after, he must have known. He was the Minister.
Well, no, again, and I don't like to get into too much of technical details, but this is how it operates. We talked about the prospecting license.
Yeah.
If you think you have found something, you immediately have to notify the minister.
Yeah.
And the minister then says, okay, go out there and do an appraisal well. And after you do the appraisal well, that determines whether you have oil in commercial quantity.
Yes.
And that triggers a production license.
But you telling me in the 13, 14 days after the
That's what I'm saying. He must have known months and months in
of course,
before.
Of course he must have known. You know, he could, when they come in, he couldn't say, "Oh, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear." You know, he must have known.
Did you ask him about it?
He said not.
Well, he didn't do his work.
Well, you know, he isn't doing his work now. No, he didn't do his work. No, I mean, you know, it is incredible, and I'm using the word in the classical sense, that there was no knowledge of that before the election.
Well, no, there must have been knowledge. You know, somebody had said that Guyana will have oil when the Americans tell us we have oil.
Bit true.
Well, that came to pass.
Yeah, and the Americans chose to tell you had oil after the election, you know, rather than before the election.
Do you think that was a politically preferential statement by?
I'm not
Yeah.
Machiavelli, but it, you know, it would seem to be rather well timed. You know, who knows?
That's a British understatement.
Well, ExxonMobil is not politically naive. They know when and where to do things, and you know, it was just coincidental that they announced this 2 weeks afterwards. One of the other things we haven't brought up is the fact that this is 89% of the wells they drill turn out to be positive. 89%.
Yeah.
The world average is 20. So 9 out of 10 wells comes up drops. So this is wrong to use the word, but you know, you're talking about it's Klondike. This is Klondike, the oil companies.
Now, you interviewed a lot of Guyanese.
I have, yes.
You said ExxonMobil, or Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, was present at all of these
They
presentations.
seem to be, yes.
Yes.
They have an interest.
Did you invite them to do a presentation?
Yes, yes.
And did they?
No response.
What is your view on their own unwillingness to participate in this national conversation in which we have accommodated them?
Because they don't need to. Why should they? Why should they?
Out of a sense of appreciation for Guyanese's hospitality and naivety, perhaps.
I don't know, but like no, they don't need to. They have their exploration, they have their prospecting license. Why do they need to talk to you? They don't. They'll give you a bit of CSR money. Everybody's going to get little crumbs off the table, but they don't have to talk to. As far as they're concerned, the talking's finished. That's my and until you get your acts together in terms of the law, there's no reason to speak to you.
But would getting your act together in terms of law make any difference
Well,
when the contract or the agreement you have signed says that Parliament can't pass any law adverse to their interests unless unless the country is willing to compensate them for any adverse consequences?
I bring you back to the phrase "stable doors and horses." You know, they know that the Parliament has no power, the government has no power. I mean, you know, we have spent 40, 50 years reading about the power of multinational oil companies. You're seeing it now, aren't you? Huh?
Well, Burnham and Jagan been spent more than 60 years telling us about the powers of multinationals.
Yes, and you know now you're
And we've learned nothing.
you learn nothing. You know, I mean, they've come in with good intent, and they haven't trampled over you, but you know they're doing their business, and you guys are slightly irrelevant. Now, if you'd like to invite ExxonMobil to come on and say what they plan,
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, of course, is if there's no law, what happens is custom and practice becomes
Yeah.
law. So what they're doing becomes the law.
You know, John. Many people probably don't know this, but when the bill, the Petroleum Exploration and Production Bill, was debated in the National
This
Assembly,
is 1996.
1986,
Yeah.
86.
86, okay.
Chadi Jagan was then the leader of the opposition, and he cautioned, he warned that legislation, loose as it was opening the doors to Americans coming and take over your resources. It's something you should get a copy of.
He's prescient 30 years before his time.
Well, he was prescient, but guess who signed the first petroleum agreement?
His wife.
His wife.
His wife, as president, yes, indeed. Which is the one you operate under now.
No, we don't operate under that.
No,
That's
but-
gone. That's gone.
But have you seen any sensible discussion about what lawyers actually need in this country?
Probably.
Apart from you,
Probably not.
you, Ramson, and Datterdean. There are only three lawyers who know anything about oil law.
But what do you plan doing with all these hours and hours of recorded
God
conversation?
God knows. Well, first of all, I plan.
Is this going to make you a wealthy man?
Is it hell? No, not. I mean, what I probably plan to do is to do a second edition of that, which is just based on interviews.
But that's going to be a lot of writing.
Cut down. No, it'll be cutting down the interviews.
Yeah. Well, you still got to sync them. This one here
Yes.
is individual chapters. It was easy to put this together.
Yeah, but it'll be individual interviews.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to try and get themes out of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's too much like hard work.
That would be hard work indeed.
I'm too Guyanese to volunteer for the hard work.
When do you claim you're Guyanese and when do you claim you're British?
Interesting question. When I turn up with my Guyanese passport at Ogle, and I get a double take from the customs office, immigration person. I'm sometimes Guyanese in Britain because I do quite a lot of stuff at the High Commission.
Yeah, you know our High Commissioner pretty well.
I do.
Case?
How many I think is 50 times better than the previous High Commissioner, and that doesn't take a lot. He understands the diaspora. I mean, I once wrote a letter to the Stabroek News that said ambassadors are supposed to look after the diaspora, encourage trade and encourage investment, and I see no evidence of any of that.
On a sad note, speaking with about Hamley case, I heard today that Mr. Rashley Jackson,
Yes, his house is
who
burning.
served this country
Yeah.
so very well, had his house
Burnt down. The back half is burnt down. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the story. But Hamley is doing a good job in London. Because
But I want to take this opportunity to wish Rashley a speedy recovery from. Obviously, he's going to be traumatized,
Yeah,
and I think Guyanese and the government, the state,
right.
should come to his assistance, help to rebuild his house.
Guyana Relief Council.
Yes.
So send Yvonne Hines in there.
Well, yeah, but I really
No,
think that
I understand. But Hamley is in a very fortunate position. He is a man in much demand because British companies now want to come here. I
Yes.
spent some time yesterday with the British High Commissioner in Guyana, and his phone rings off the hook. People wanting to know come and do business in Guyana.
Yeah.
And because this is going to be, whether you like it or like it not, a prosperous economy.
Yeah.
And people come in, and some of them will rip you off. Of course they will, and some of them will not.
But how much of that is possible? What are the opportunities for the ripping off? We had
the naivety of the Guyanese.
our head of energy saying that we'll be doing our own uplift of oil. We can be selling our own oil,
Yes.
Well, we can get ripped off there.
Sure. And also, I mean, there's a dream of a refinery. It's a false dream. What does it cost? How many million US dollars to build?
Well, but there is a point at which a refinery makes sense,
That's one point. But one thing.
given the quantity of oil.
Well, also what we haven't talked about is the quantity of gas,
Mhm.
in which Exxon has no real interest. If the government can find a way of using that natural gas to bring it ashore to electricity for manufacturing.
I've heard Patterson talk about that. Now that is building some false hopes. Gas has serious negative from an economic point of view. As a matter of fact, there was a very carefully written article about 2 months ago that said 65% of the gas projects that are currently being constructed will end up being loss making.
Yes.
So let's not think this is going to be the solution. What we have to do, what we're faced with, is oil within a matter of months.
Yes. Yes.
And we are unready for that. We have not even decided what we're going to do about the price of domestic distribution of oil.
Mhm.
Do we sell oil at these prohibitive prices and therefore keep our manufacturing and our business sector
Down.
and our domestic sector?
Yeah.
Cost of electricity, forget the incompetence of GPL, which seems to be irredeemable.
Well, I think it's pretty disgraceful that 53 years after independence, you don't have a reliable electricity supply.
Well, it's disgraceful because the people who are managing the project are disgraceful.
Well, 53 years, you've been independent, and people are still having blackouts. But just to end on a positive note, this could be El Dorado. It is going to be El Dorado. It's a question of who gets the trinkets and who gets the gold.
But you were careful with your oil dorado to
Yes.
put the question mark.
Yes, because it could and should be El Dorado.
But we also know that lots of countries, particularly on the southern hemisphere,
Yeah,
on
the
this
Dutch
side
coast,
of the equator, the resource curse.
Well, that's where the people must stop the corruption.
Well, it's more than corruption; it's governance as well.
Yes, I mean there's no governance structure.
And if you have governments that don't respect constitutions,
Yes.
if you have election laws that seem to reward bad things,
Yes.
then that's your resource curse.
Well, but also people must take control, and if they can see their patrimony being wasted,
Can
they
you
have to,
go on?
they have to say no, not in our name.
Well, can I ask you one last thing?
Of course.
When you go back to the UK, can you ask that woman Gina Miller if she would come and spend 6 months with us in Guyana?
She won't.
She won't.
She's
too busy taking up.
Well, I have asked her to come.
Yeah.
For 4 days to do the big conversation.
And I like how
I'll talk to her when I go
I
back.
like how she talks about we the British.
Well, she
She
pushes it in their face,
Yeah,
That she gets a lot of racist abuse.
Oh, absolutely. She had to get guards.
She doesn't go anywhere
Bodyguard,
nowhere
yeah.
without a guard because her life has been threatened.
Well, I want to thank you very much for appearing on Plain Talk. I hope you have benefited, an early beneficiary of El Dorado. You've sold, you've had a bestseller
Well,
in terms by Guyana standards.
I sold probably about 80 to 90 books. Yes.
That's not bad. So congratulations.
All right, thank you. And it is available. It's called El Dorado. It's available in Austin's and all good bookshops. Over to you, Chris.
Operators and viewers, thank you. Good night, and I'll see you next week. We're probably going to be dealing with politics, with all these new political parties coming on board, and obviously wishing to explain why they're coming on board, why they're getting into elections, and what they hope to deliver to the Guyanese people. So thank you, good night, and I'll see you next week.